We start this new video on the new Carpuride W702BS. Let's look at some things you've asked about. We'll go through Google. You'll find the various topics in chapters below, so let's see if we can cover them all. All right, let's start by turning it on. Unfortunately, due to back pain, I can't ride these days, so we'll make do with this static test. Let's call it the static test. We're not really concerned about fuel. This is the standard screen that comes up. I have my smartphone in my pocket. Let's see if Android Auto starts automatically. Let's take a look. This is, you could say, the standard part, what appears with the last used application, in this case, Google Maps. On the other side, we have Spotify. Let's pause it for a second. First, let's look at the audio section, so intercom management. I have a helmet here, I'll show you just to give you an idea, with a Sena SF2 mounted. We might try it with other phones later, just to test, but let's see if they work or not. So far, the only configuration that's been done, let's take a look, we can see it below, was done through, how do you say, BMW's TFT. So everything is connected to the TFT. Let's check the connections. We have the smartphone and the helmet. In this case, the passengers. I've reversed the connection. We have the intercom connected as the main helmet, and then we have the smartphone, all just on the TFT, so not connected to the smartphone. Actually, the smartphone is then connected to the TFT, and consequently, the CarPlay should work without any problems. Now let's switch to navigator mode. So now I should be able to check. Perfect. Let's go. Use touch. Merge for a second and go to the settings. I want the audio to be handled directly through audio output. The volume adjustment doesn't seem to work. So probably the music adjustment only works if the intercom is directly connected to the TFT, but let's do another test. Let's see if we can do it through here instead. No, there's no way to adjust the volume through the wheel. So, audio level, everything works. The intercoms are connected to each other through the TFT, and it works here as well. You can still manage the music either from the TFT, because the TFT is actually connected to the smartphone, and this allows you to fully manage the music tracks. Or you can easily go back. In this case, let's go back here and return to Android Auto. Let's see. Yes, let's activate the mode. Now let's see. However, I can see that at the controller level it seems to work quite well. Well, let's say that everything seems to be working well from this perspective. Let's go back. Here too, we can go back to see the apps. Okay. So let's say that, from the audio point of view, for now it's clear that if everything is connected to the bike's TFT, that's the solution I prefer. You certainly lose the ability to adjust the volume, but you actually maintain the connection with the bike and helmets without having to change anything. Basically, CarPlay just acts as an external monitor, nothing more, so it could still be a good solution. Maybe later in the next videos, I'll also try disconnecting everything and reconnecting only through the CarPlay. The solution might be interesting, but it really only adds volume management. On the flip side, you lose the ability to ride without CarPlay, so you lose the ability to adjust the volume, and you also lose the ability to use voice commands via Android Auto. Alright, now let's start to look at what you can do with the wheel. So, as we maybe saw in the initial video, let's say with the bike like this, the dashboard can be either white or black, and so far, that's no problem at all. Let's go back, but I said this is the mode they made. Understand why, by default, the star works like this. Okay, we press the arrow button at this point to activate. We have only two functions available. One is Info, where it shows this dashboard. Then we have this one, which opens up the world of apps. The app world, let's say, allows you to choose between Apple's CarPlay, which I don't have in this case, or Android Auto, which is what we've seen now. This is a problem, though, because it sometimes crashes now. We'll see if it's a firmware issue, and maybe we'll look at it later. Let's see if we can... In this case, let's do it the hard way. Disconnect it and reconnect it, because it seems to be losing the connection completely. It's activated with the arrow button. In this case, let's just turn off the music for a second, as we're not interested in it. The base wheel moves and adjusts the volume. Then, using the button and arrows, you can choose different options. Scroll through them with the wheel. Let's check the phone. Android Auto is active, so you can't access the phone from here. Okay. In audio, you can choose whether to use audio from your smartphone or audio connected to CarPlay. Now we're back here. We have the dashboard. This is the compass. We have the compass, then we have phone, music, memory card, and settings. I'm not sure how to directly select these options from here. So we enter here to scroll through the various options. Let's see if there's a way to know. So we have the audio here, and let's say the equalizer and Bluetooth activation. In this case, the Android Auto input, brightness. I won't do that, but I can change the background. I can't show it, but that's how it works. And then the child option. I prefer the black background actually, so we'll leave it like that. Let's say this is the standard operation. Now let's go in and look at other things. First, let's start by looking at the available applications. I'd go directly into Android Auto, so we can get an overview. As you can see, we can zoom in and out, change the map view, manage audio, turn it on, off, or set alerts only. Here are the Android Auto settings, or rather Google Maps settings with satellite view. These are offline modes, so I don't have 3D buildings or voice guidance, just the usual Google Maps features. You can still navigate easily using the wheel, as you can see. Pressing the button below splits the screen or takes you to the menu. It seems to freeze occasionally when returning to the menu. Now let's look at some navigation apps. Besides Google Maps, we can choose other apps like Waze, which I usually use. I'm in offline mode now, so we only have limited features, but we still have the usual wheel controls. You can see the plus and minus. It's already at maximum, okay? We can still search for an address. It's not very fast with the wheel, and I'm offline, so there's not much to see. But it does work, and you control almost everything with the wheel. The settings are very similar to what you find in Google Maps. Okay, let's go back to the menu and see if there are other apps we can use. Many asked if Osmand works. I just installed it, okay? And you can see Osmand works too. This is the free version, so I'm not sure about limitations. But you can see Osmand continues to work, with the usual options it seems. It definitely takes some getting used to. It depends on the app, but even the free version seems to have decent functionality. Let me know in the comments if you want me to try anything else. Now let's do one more test using gloves. Many of you asked how the touchscreen works with gloves. My hands are quite cold since it's not very warm here, but it doesn't seem to respond very well. I have to say, it's not great with touch. It works much better with bare hands. Let's try again with the glove. I'm not sure if it's just my gloves. These are BMW gloves, but it works, though not perfectly. But I have to say, using the wheel seems to work pretty well. Apart from a few hitches, it seems to be functioning. You need to apply good pressure for it to register, unlike without gloves. Unfortunately for motorcycles, gloves are usually necessary. I don't ride without them, so this could be quite inconvenient. Unlike Chigi and BMW, on the other hand, the touch works very well even with gloves, always less than with the free hand. However, I must say that it can also fit. Okay, now let's look at the last two questions. The first is about how much space it takes up. The issue with the 7-inch screen is that it fits precisely, so it wasn't possible to mount it in a more inward position. The rear bracket unfortunately takes up space. It's quite spaced out, simply because this part has to stay and touches the original BMW bracket. However, as you can see, it doesn't protrude that much. Definitely a little, but not excessively. Okay, now I'll show you what happens when you turn off the bike. Many of you have asked about this. Actually, like all BMWs, when you turn off the ignition, there's still power for about 1 minute. You'll see if the Carpuride notices this, as it's connected to the ECU and shuts down normally. So when using Android Auto or CarPlay, you don't need to reset the address every time because it's stored in the phone's memory. If navigation is active when you turn off the bike and restart it, it will simply resume from where you left off without having to reset the address. This is simply because, like all CarPlay systems, this model can be considered dumb in the sense that it's essentially just an external monitor for your smartphone. That's all. In a few seconds, it should reconnect to Android automatically without having to restart or reconfigure everything. All right, as usual, I invite you to like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can see it's reconnecting now. It takes about 30 seconds. But again, that's quite acceptable. It resumes exactly where you left off with the last application open. So you see, it doesn't change much. Remember, in the description, you'll find a 30% discount coupon, and during this period, Carpuride is offering an additional discount. Needless to say, if you purchase through the link in the description, you're helping support the work we're trying to do. It costs you nothing extra, but we receive a small reward, either in money or future products. That's all. If you want to buy it and you're interested, Use our link to help us out. That's it. I think I've covered everything. If you have any questions or further curiosities, write them in the comments, and I'll definitely try to make dedicated videos, hoping to feel better with my back, and maybe be able to test the bike on the road. All right, thank you, and see you next time.